everyone. This is Data Driven Formula One with Patrick, Henz, and Ganna Pogrebna. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Ganna. Hello, all, and welcome to an episode where we speak about Felipe Massa. I mean, if you're following us, you see we are started 1950, and now normally are in the middle of the 1980s. But we switched a little bit to Felipe Massa because of an actual interview given by Bernie Ecclestone, where he underlined that if FIA would have followed the regulations at that time, theoretically Felipe Massa should have been the champion at the end and not Lewis Hamilton. And this is something we will discuss a little bit in this episode to see if we would agree with him, yes or no. And of course, we will speak about Felipe Massa in general.
Yeah, I think, Lewis Hamilton fans probably will not be happy about it. But again, look, we're not trying to offend anybody. This is obviously an open discussion, and there is a lot of controversy around that. And it's a good topic for us to pay attention to.
Yeah. But we have to be clear, the controversy is in no way related to Lewis Hamilton in that way.
No, of course.
Okay, Felipe Massa, Brazilian race driver. He competed for a long time, 15 seasons, started 2002 and had been active until 2017. And he has been quite competitive quite until the end. So I remember he was a very valuable driver at Williams, but we will come to this.
He had a break, right? He had a break in 2003. He wasn't actually. He was a Scuderia Ferrari test driver in 2003, and that's why.
Exactly.
He was not competing. And also, I just want to mention that he was also a driver in Formula E in 2018, 2019. He didn't have any wins, but he started like 24 times or something like that, or 25 times. And he won, he didn't win anything, but he was once on podium.
Important for Formula E to get more attention, and this you get, of course, with Formula One drivers. Normally, it's not a way you would go after retiring after longer time as Felipe Massa. Mostly, if you only had like 1 to 3 seasons in Formula One, you may think about switching to Formula E in average. And he's Brazilian and from Sao Paulo. A lot of people with Italian heritage. Same with Felipe Massa. For example, his grandparents came directly from Cerinola, in the province of Foggia in Italy.
Yeah.
As you've mentioned, he started as a Ferrari test driver or a Ferrari youngster, better said. So he started in the Sauber team, which used some kind of Ferrari engine. Then, as he has been spotted as a bigger talent, went to Ferrari, replacing Rubens Barrichello, another Brazilian driver, and then at the end had still 3 years at the Williams teams. So total of 272 entries and 11 victories.
Yeah, and I also want to say that he is one of those drivers that started very, very young, from the age of 8, right? So he was doing karting from the age of 8. And he was this like really child genius who won practically everything in his childhood.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, and he spent 7 years karting before then. At 1998, moved to the Brazilian Formula Chevrolet and finished 5th in the championship there. Later on, he won 3 out of 10 races in the next Chevrolet season. As normally it is for a young driver, and you are in Asia at that time or in Latin America, you go to Europe to continue your career. So in 2000, he competed in the Italian Formula Renault series, won both the Italian and the European Championship. Then went to Formula 3000 and not Formula 3, and there he won 6 out of 8 races, 2001. And then in next year, finally, he offered testing with the Sauber team and signed on for the 2002 season.
Yeah, so I mean, a very eventful career as a young man. Yeah, and he, like Patrick already said, in 2002, excuse me, he entered Formula One with Sauber team, and even though he, I think, spun off a few times in his first season, he still got some points for them, and yeah, was. They retained him on the team. Like I said, in 2003, he was not in competing because I think probably they thought maybe this guy's too young. Let's put him as a test driver for a bit, and then he returned in 2004.
Yeah, maybe it's a combination. Also, Sauber, of course, a team always looking how to get money. And they had the opportunity for getting Hans-Harald Frentzen. In the beginning of the 2000s, there was a big Formula One market euphoria in Germany with Michael Schumacher, of course. Heinz-Harald Frentzen was a teammate of Schumacher in the earlier Sauber Group C, and also a very big talent. So I think also from a financial point, they had been quite interested to have an additional German driver to attract more attention and more money for the team. So it was, Massa did some spins, but also I think it was for financial marketing reasons getting Frentzen on board.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, in 2003, he spent testing for Ferrari, which is Sauber's engine supplier. The engine was called Petronas because Petronas paid for it, but at the end it was an older Ferrari engine. So he had been related to Ferrari since 2003, and then later for the 2004 season, he got again a seat at the Sauber team. So Sauber, similar to today, is a little bit the Ferrari junior team. So I think Ferrari had some influence to get him on board for the 2004 season. And I think he was quite good at Sauber because later, 2005, he even outpaced his teammate Jacques Villeneuve, who have been a former Formula One champion.
Yeah, and then there was a quite sensational interview last year because I don't think it was a public fact. Massa actually said that Sauber was taken over by BMW, and they offered him a 3-year contract. But then Ferrari had an opening because Rubens Barrichello signed for Honda in 2006 season, and by this insane stroke of fate, he got a place at Ferrari. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a unusual sort of way, not very straightforward into Ferrari seat, but he paired Michael Schumacher. He was his partner at the time.
Yes, and I remember he was doing quite good. So he was he was not on the same speed as Michael Schumacher, but he was not that far away. So he really did quite good, even in comparison to Schumacher.
Yeah, and I have to say that he was really good. We know that he was good. And how do we know that he was good? Because Ferrari they wanted to recruit Kimi Raikkonen for 2007. So they only wanted Massa for 1 year originally, 2006. But then he was... he basically got lucky the second time because Michael Schumacher retired and he got the seat in Ferrari again, which was again like considering I think he was extremely lucky with placement and not so lucky with the championship win.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But in general, 2006 has some kind of mixed results, but nevertheless, he also had his first Formula One pole position, the first victory at the Turkish Grand Prix. He won even his home race in Sao Paulo. So he finished the position on a third place overall behind Fernando Alonso, who won that year, and his teammate Michael Schumacher. So, I mean, for a rookie at Ferrari, quite positive results.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you said, Michael Schumacher announced his retirement, and knowing that you would have a new driver with Kimi Raikkonen, of course, as a team, you want to have at least one a little bit more experienced driver. So he ensured his seat also for the next year.
Yeah, it's also that season, like Patrick, you said, the home race was also very cool because it was only the second time when Brazilian driver won Interlagos race because previously Ayrton Senna won it in 1993, and then since that time there was no Brazilian driver that would win it, and Felipe Massa made kind of history in 2006 when he won the Brazilian Grand Prix. That's very cool.
Yep. Then 2007, which had been quite a good year for the Ferrari team. They mentioned Kimi Raikkonen became champion. And also thanks to Felipe Massa, good results, he helped winning the World Constructors' Championship for Ferrari. So quite a positive year for the Scuderia. And Massa, I mean, he ranked fourth, but nevertheless, I think also quite a good year for both of them.
But remember why that happened. That was 2007. That was the year when there was the Spygate between Ferrari and McLaren. And what happened to Massa? It was a very eventful Canadian Grand Prix. Remember when it was raining and it took like ages, like 11 hours or something. It was amazing. And basically, he got disqualified from Canadian Grand Prix because he left the pit lane while it was the red light still was showing or something like this. So basically, yeah, he violated one of those pit lane rights.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he was disqualified, so that's why he lost the points. And then the next, he had a Turkish Grand Prix where he got he finished on podium and got some points. So yeah, it was again a very strange thing that happened in Canada, but it was it was a very eventful race. So when we get to 2007, you are in for a lot of surprises.
Yeah, it will still take a while, but yeah, right, it will be a great year. Okay, then 2008, and this is a little bit the year we will have the focus on today. And here you see already the data. You see Lewis Hamilton, who won 2008, Felipe Massa second, and the third Kimi Räikkönen, so the reigning Formula One champion. You see the victory, only 1 point difference. You see a little bit the curves how close both Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa had been practically all the year long.
Mm-hmm.
There are two races interesting regarding 2008. First of all, Singapore. This was the first time we had a night race in Formula One. This mostly because of, I think, of the TV rights, because we wanted to see them also in the European channels at a time where people are not sleeping. So that's why it was quite late. I mean, besides this, I can imagine also related to the climate, to have it not that hot for the drivers. So it was quite an interesting race. Felipe Massa took the pole position, so he was faster than Lewis Hamilton and the rest of the field. And it was quite comfortable leading the race with more than 5 seconds ahead of Hamilton after 14 laps. Then had been this infamous crash by Nelson Piquet Jr. on the Renault on lap 14, which brought out the safety car. And unfortunately, Massa and Ferrari had been a little bit more surprised. I mean, everybody had been surprised, but really the Ferrari pit stop had been quite chaotic, including that mechanics had to run down to remove the fuel hose. So it was very slow, and which dropped Massa to the last place. And then he even got a drive-through penalty for unsafe release. The whole result directly from the race had been Hamilton winning, and Hamilton became on the third.
Yeah,
and Massa finished in the 13th place, so outside the points, which practically had been ending his championship dreams for that season. So far, this was the race itself. The important point here, it later became public that Piquet Jr.'s crash was on purpose.
It was a famous crashgate, so-called crashgate in Formula One. It's a very cool situation, probably never happened before and will never happen again.
Yeah.
Because it was a strategic decision of Renault to crash and that to give the advantage to the second car, and it's it really backfired.
Yeah, at that time Renault was practically a one driver team, having the number one Fernando Alonso in the big gap to the second one who was Piquet Jr. So Piquet Jr. was there to support Alonso.
Yeah.
So far, so good. So this officially became known in August 2009. So here started the allegations that Nelson Piquet Jr. had been obstructed by the management to crash the car to benefit the number one driver, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, but we need to also explain. So you have to understand that there was a huge scandal in 2007 between McLaren and Ferrari, because McLaren was accused of stealing data from Ferrari, so stealing information, spying essentially, and there was a huge court case as a result, and some of the facts that were unraveled, it essentially came out through these procedures, through all these depositions and and hearings, that that this happened. So, and yeah, if you are watching us on YouTube, you actually can see the crashed car now. But Nelson Piquet Jr. and they are behaving like he just won because that was essentially the strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. But nevertheless, there was later some bad blood. So Piquet really made a statement accusing his team principal Flavio Briatore and his engineer Pat Simmons that this whole crash was staged. So he became, let's say, the whistleblower, as you would call him today. And as he was the whistleblower, he was granted immunity by the FIA.
I think he was just advised by his lawyers to do that. I mean, I don't think he consciously did it. I think it's just the allegation emerged. And the best strategy that they saw was to plead guilty and explain that it was team orders. And as a result, Flavio Briatore was completely disqualified. He's banned, right, from participating ever in Formula One. Yeah. What happened to the other guy? I don't know.
I don't remember what happened to him. Just to add, Nelson Piquet Jr. was also, of course, counseled by his father. So I think both father and son made the case against Renault.
Yeah, but naturally, Nelson Piquet is no longer driving, as you can see. So it kind of confirms again that, these types of strategies do not lead to, it probably saved him the embarrassment, but look, in these situations, my opinion is everyone is to blame. It's not like Nelson Piquet Jr. didn't have a choice, right? He could have just said no.
Indeed.
And yes, he would have to find a different team probably the next season, but, it's just a matter of personal integrity. And, he, in my opinion, he is just as much guilty as the rest of the strategic management.
Indeed, I'm 100% with you. I mean, of course, you may argue he was the weakest part of the chain, so he had a lot of pressure because, there was obviously a big gap between him and Alonso. So he had, he perceived that he had to do this to ensure a seat for next year, but I'm completely with you. Even in such a situation, you have to act based on values and based on regulations. And if this means not losing your seat, then it means losing your seat because it's manipulation. It's against, it's not only against regulations, it's against the fans who wants to see a real spectacle, and they want to see people winning races based on their talent, on the work. I mean, imagine how many working hours Ferrari engineers spent in the box supporting their driver winning the race, and with this manipulation, it's really against the fans, against the other teams and people involved. So it was bad for everybody. And of course, at the end, most bad, it was also against the Renault team. It was a very bad image impact on the Renault team. So it, on the short run, they may have won this race, but it heavily backfired not only against Piquet, but against the Renault Formula One team. So theoretically, he could have continued in Formula One, and there's one question: was he there because of the name? Maybe he hadn't the required talent, and this would be it's now up to discussion. Bernie Ecclestone wanted to see him back, and he was dreaming of a Brazilian dream team, pairing him together with Bruno Senna, so the son of Piquet and the
Nephew.
nephew, right?
He's a nephew.
The nephew of Ayrton Senna. Of course, from a marketing point of view, this would have been great, covering not only the Brazilian market, but also, great for marketing all over the world. But this never happened because, as you pointed out, other racing teams may hesitate having a driver like this who deviated quite strongly the regulations, because if you do it once, people think you may do it twice.
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions. For example, the question of whether Fernando Alonso was also involved. I find it of course, this is not proven that he knew anything, but I find it highly unlikely that he didn't know. So I think it probably was but again, the whole kind of blame went to the managers, and Flavio Briatore, like I said, he got a very strong penalty. He's banned.
Yeah.
That had very serious consequences.
Indeed, and I agree. I would also assume that Alonso may have known about it, and also Felipe Massa openly suggested this also, that he have been somehow involved. He said this in an interview 6 weeks later. And as a result, Alonso turned down Massa's invitation to Massa's annual charity card race event in Brazil. So at that time, the relation between Alonso and Massa have been quite toxic, I think, for the obvious reason.
Yeah, and like you said, that kind of so that actually robbed Massa of his championship ultimately, because
yes,
like Hamilton in the last race was 6, and that's just what he needed to edge 1 point from Massa. And but in these situations, like, my opinion that FIA should have recalculated the results when this emerged, and had a sort of some rematch, another Grand Prix or something, but it's it's definitely not. You need to make, because if everyone else was given good conditions to win, then definitely in this case those conditions were not met.
Exactly, and with this we're coming to an interview by Bernie Ecclestone 2023. He gave the Formula One Insider, a German publication. If you're interested, you find the complete interview online, and this also explains a little bit why this not happened back in 2008. Yeah. But now, as Bernie Ecclestone is a little bit outside, he spoke maybe a little bit more openly. So I'm quoting here Bernie. He said, "Max Mosley and I were informed during the 2008 season," and this is important when we speak about the regulations later, "of what had happened in the race in Singapore. Piquet Jr. had told his father Nelson that he had been asked by the team to drive into the wall at a certain point in order to trigger a safety car phase and such to help his teammate Alonso." So this is how he started the new interview. Then he continued, "Piquet Jr. was worried about his contract extension, so he was under a lot of pressure and agreed what we just discussed. of course, he had a high level of pressure. And if you see, for example, a basic model like Donald Cressy's fraud triangle, yes, fraud or opportunity is a big point. So we can understand that people crack under pressure. But sorry, nevertheless, you are responsible for your activities. So Nelson Piquet Jr. Is guilty, and he cannot excuse that he was the weakest player in this game. I mean, psychologically understandable, but nevertheless, it is your responsibility, which you have for yourself and for everybody else involved in the sports and who love the sports. Back to Bernie, we decided not to do anything for now. We wanted to protect the sport and save it from a huge scandal. That's why I used Angelique tongues to persuade my former below Nelson Piquet to keep calm for the time being. And this shows now that besides Bernie Ecclestone, besides Flavio Briatore, besides Nelson Piquet, there are clearly other people guilty, which is the Formula One management and Bernie Ecclestone, because they had been aware, but they didn't want to do anything. And this also related because Formula One is more than just a sport. It's also a circus, as it's also called, the Formula One circus. It's a big marketing campaign for companies to present themselves. A lot of money in the business. And here, sorry, one of the big persons guilty is also Bernie Ecclestone, who had all the information, who had to act based on the regulation, but decided not to do anything. So from my point of view, there's also a big guilt here within. So not just the driver, but it went up to Formula One management covering up this scandal.
Yeah. It's well, but you know, in this cases still, when the facts emerged, right, they should have done they should have, for example, discounted the entire race points, at least.
Yeah.
And then recalculated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why this is relevant, based on the 2008 regulations, the FIA International Sporting Code. I was, in the preparation for this episode, I studied the sporting code. So it does not directly mention what Bernie Ecclestone is telling us in the interview, that after the FIA award ceremony, it was not possible anymore to change the World Championship standing. I could not find this, to be honest, in the code of conduct or in the Formula One regulations for that time. It's a little bit difficult to find it today on the internet, but it is still there. But maybe there was an amendment which was not published. So this is something very difficult to identify if we are not conducting an internal audit or something to understand what all regulations had been valid at the time. If it's really true that after the regulations, after you give after the award ceremony to take away the championship from Lewis Hamilton to Massa based on the new information or not. But anyway, as so
well,
this
they could have given two as well, yes. Right? Like if you don't want to sort of, I mean, it's not Hamilton's fault, obviously. But they could have given a second one and just say, okay, well, in 2008 we had two champions, you know, due to the facts that emerged. So
yeah, I mean, this is relevant for us today because you know, in 2008 as it was still running this the championship, they decided to do nothing. I mean, and only because they decided to do nothing, we had then now at the end of this season the awards ceremony giving it to Hamilton instead of Massa. So only it went to Hamilton because Ecclestone decided to do nothing. It's relevant for us now. That's why Ecclestone is saying we cannot change it today in 2023, giving it to Massa because we cannot take it away from Hamilton. But I completely agree. There could be a solution based on all the facts which we have today, saying Massa should have received this championship. So give him an additional championship. Why not?
Yeah, but also no, I'm not sure to what extent it was the place of the place of the management, because if Bernie Ecclestone heard it from Nelson Piquet Sr., it's basically hearsay, right? I mean, Nelson Piquet Sr. wasn't there. It's also, you need to prove it, right? If you go against Renault, you need to have the evidence, and I can understand why, like, if you just heard it from one person, it's not really easy to prove.
Yeah, and with this we come directly to something else Ecclestone said in his new interview. We had enough information in time to investigate the matter. According to the statutes, we should have cancelled the race in Singapore under these conditions. That means it would never have happened for the World Cup standings. Then Felipe Massa would have become world champion and not Lewis Hamilton. So exactly what you said. Of course, you cannot just rely your actions on what Nelson Piquet Sr. had told you, but you had to consider all the information at that point and start an investigation. This is something what Bernie Ecclestone and the rest of the FIA management exactly not did, because they wanted to protect the perfect show. So and here is what have gone wrong. So if there are enough information, you have to start an investigation. You are not allowed just to ignore it, looking the other way because you not want to see the problem. You have to take the information, allegations, if it's credible, and then start an adequate investigation.
Right. Well.
And if this would have done, and we are playing a little bit here with the number, taking out the Singapore Grand Prix, we would have had champion Felipe Massa. Most probably, of course, he could have had an accident if the race continued, whatever. So you never know. Just playing around with numbers. We had 97 points. Felipe Massa without Singapore, Lewis Hamilton 92, so a clear championship for Felipe Massa. And again, you may understand that it was a little bit to protect the show also, because you may think Ferrari won championships a lot the last years. Then you had this new talented Lewis Hamilton. Finally, you have a Mercedes-Benz, a different brand winning. So I'm sure there had been a lot of financial reasons why they not wanted to have an investigation, which could have been in favor of Felipe Massa.
Yeah. Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
We can only speculate. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, that is the good thing here in podcasts. We can speculate about everything we want. So here an answer from Felipe Massa in the Corriere della Sera. He said the obvious. Bernie should have said it earlier, not now, but I've always said it. It was unacceptable. I spoke about it at the time with Ferrari and with the team's lawyers at Maranello, and they told me that there was nothing they could do. There was no
which
chance
is
of
true.
winning.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, which is true.
which
from
is
a
true.
legal
I
point
mean,
of
you
view.
cannot unless the people who was there and heard like Nelson Piquet Jr. who was there and was told, unless he spoke, nothing could be done. Yeah.
Exactly. So Felipe continues, but I have always thought, and I still think today, that if I had hired lawyers on my own and brought forward a case, the outcome would have been different. And here I agree with you. I think without this information, especially from Bernie Ecclestone, that he was aware of all this and actively decided not to investigate, without this key information, I don't think he had won this case back in 2008 or back in 2009 for these reasons we discussed.
Yeah. It's just before the person who is there speaks, it's basically hearsay. Anyone can tell anybody whatever, but it's only important what you can prove in court.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's I can understand the position of Bernie Ecclestone as well, because like I said, you just hear it from a third person essentially who is not there, he just decided that would be inappropriate to take an action. But I completely agree with you that he should have investigated and at least understanding of what can be proven, right? This should have been done, because ultimately it affected the outcome of the season. And we can talk for days and days about that. We don't want a scandal, but ultimately the reputation of the sport suffers from cases like this. And it is in sports best interest, and it is in Bernie Ecclestone's best interest to make sure that this doesn't happen, because this is a scandal in itself.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty much the scandal around Singapore, and we already discussed the other important race had been Sao Paulo, the final race of the 2008 season, where Felipe Massa did a great race, started from pole position, leading most of the race, won the race. Nevertheless, quite dramatic in the final lap because Lewis Hamilton overtook Timo Glock, who was German driver, who was still on dry tires, and it became rainy. And only with this last overtaking of Timo Glock in the final lap, and at that time, I think Felipe Massa already saw the checkered flag, if I remember it right. So only with this action in the very last lap, he really could get his first championship, becoming the youngest ever Formula One champion in the age of 23. So it was quite dramatic. Massa already saw the checkered flag. At his home Grand Prix, people practically already started celebrating, and then you get the message, stop, Lewis Hamilton won the championship.
Yeah.
Well, nevertheless, Ferrari at least won the World Constructors Championship again after 2007.
Yeah, that's right. And so like we discussed that he was very, very lucky, and I think at that point in Singapore he kind of ran out of luck, and then the sequence of unfortunate events started with this that Singapore crashgate.
Yep, indeed. But nevertheless, life in the sports continued after 2008. Felipe stayed for various years at Ferrari, never had been that close again to win a championship. also because the car wasn't that competitive as in the years before. So he stayed in 2009, some smaller success, but again, not that near to win the championship again. And then next negative point for Felipe Massa, he was involved in a quite heavy accident at the qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix, where his head was struck by a suspension spring that had fallen from Rubens Barrichello's Braun. And Braun was the Braun Formula One team. And he subsequently crashed head-on into a tire barrier. And in the beginning, it was not even sure if he would survive. Also, tragical because it reminded to the accident of Ayrton Senna, where he also died because something went through his helmet. So it's very similar to Senna, also a Brazilian driver. So quite tragic for Massa. I mean, on a positive note, I think he nearly fully recovered from this accident, and even the next year could return to Formula One and the Ferrari team. In 2009, he was replaced by Giancarlo Fisichella, another former. He was the. I think he came from Benetton or from Jordan, and replaced Massa, and then stayed at Ferrari as a test driver.
Yeah, I know that when Massa was injured, I mean, this is a very famous injury because, we didn't have, since 1990s, we didn't have kind of life-threatening accidents in Formula One. So that was very spectacular. And if you watch us on YouTube, you actually see now the picture of what basically the eye operation, like after the eye operation, what happened. And I know that they reached out to Michael Schumacher to return and take Massa's place. But he had, at the time he had this motorcycle accident and he had a neck problem, neck injury, and he couldn't do it. So the test driver, Luca Badoer, was, I think, driving the rest of the season. And that was pretty, in any case, it was pretty bad injury and everyone was worried about Massa. But like Patrick said, it wasn't actually... he again got lucky. Like he got that lucky first, but lucky in the sense that it wasn't ultimately fatal, because in a week's time he was sent back to Brazil from Hungary, and his operation went well. So
and to your point, yes, I remember Michael Schumacher. He was preparing to drive again for these races for Ferrari, and I think it was the week before he tested the Ferrari for some, and then really had to say, no, sorry, based on the mentioned accident, it is not possible. But he was preparing to return, trying to return, but had to say that it was not possible due to the actual accident. Okay, but then 2010, Felipe back in the Ferrari. Again, the car wasn't that successful. There had been some victories, but unfortunately for Massa, not with Massa. Interesting, that year he got a new teammate, and this was Fernando Alonso. And even if they had this toxic relation, they worked quite harmonious as drivers, so there was not much bad blood between them, and this is, I think, one also related to Felipe Massa's character, who is very easy going, very friendly person. So he never had any, as far as I remember, any problems with any other driver. So a very good team player and very nice, easygoing person. So we had at least one success at the Bahrain Grand Prix. They had the 80th Ferrari 1-2 victory. First Alonso and second Felipe Massa. As you can see them both here. A nice display. Okay, so and again, due to his positive results, and maybe also because there haven't been any other options, he still continued for 2 more years at Ferrari.
But we probably just to kind of explain the controversy around the German Grand Prix, right? We had like it was a whole story there because during the race Alonso was faster, and the analytics team saw that basically, and Alonso was given team orders, right? And everyone remembers he was basically told that, oh, Fernando is faster. Do you understand what we mean? And basically he let Alonso through first. And for that reason, Ferrari was actually fined $100,000 they had to pay for breaking the rules, because the matter went to FIA Motor Sport Council, and they had basically. So I mean, this whole thing about team orders is a big problem, right? So you actually don't always know who is the fastest and who actually should win, and a lot of teams play this strategic game. And ultimately, in this case, they actually, they suffered the consequences of that decision. But he drove very well until probably the Brazilian and Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and finished 6th, right, that season. And but then, like you said, he was extended 2 more years.
I mean, team orders, this is something which exists since the beginning of Formula One. For example, in the early years, if you have a technical problem, the team often asked the other driver to come to the pits and give the car to your number one driver, for example. And that year, 2010, this time, team orders had been officially forbidden. And so that's why we had this big scandal. I mean, today, I think you can do it quite openly, so you wouldn't get a fine if I'm correct. And I mean, team orders, we still see it on the track. So then Massa remained with Scuderia, Ferrari, and again with Fernando Alonso. And as mentioned before, the two had quite a good relationship.
I mean, to be honest, I think if Ferrari let him, like, give him a chance, and not concentrated so much on Alonso, but I know they got Alonso from from McLaren, and probably had to offer a good deal there. And this whole controversy in 2007 was, around that as well. Because Alonso at the time was paired in 2007 with Lewis Hamilton in McLaren. And like there was a lot of sort of speculation that Alonso actually was the whistleblower. Who said that
indeed.
McLaren was spying? Yeah, and but then I think if Ferrari gave Massa a chance, he would have won a later season after 2009. But I don't think he had the chance. I think he was just like a second driver. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always the big question for a team. Do you want to focus on one driver and have the other one supporting in one of the races where it is needed? Or do we have them both on the equal level and have them fighting, risking losing points in relation to drivers from other teams? So there's always the question, what is the best way? And I mean, also from Ferrari point, Fernando Alonso at this time maybe was the fastest drivers. And I mean, we see still his talent today, 2023, where he's pretty much in control of the second driver and doing a fantastic job at Aston Martin. Then 2013, and at the end of this year, he confirmed late in the season that he would leave at the end of the year. And we're coming slowly in the social media world. So he confirmed this on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, and then he went to Williams, right?
Exactly.
In 2013. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember that he was very valuable for Williams, not only very fast, but due to his experience, could really bring on help supporting the Williams team growing, getting more professional. So he was really motivated, and he did a great job in these 3 years.
Yeah, so he had kind of some ups and downs in Williams. So sometimes he would be starting really strong, and sometimes not so strong. So he had, I think, very kind of unlucky season basically his first season in 2014, because like in Australia he crashed at the start, and then in Malaysia he also so there was a problem. He was like caught out by the safety car and like couldn't have a good finish. Yeah, but then ultimately he was performing quite well for Williams, and in 2016 he decided to retire, right?
Exactly, but got convinced that he's really needed for one more year, and then agreed and raced 1 year more with Williams.
Yeah, that's it. And then like I said, he then did a bit of Formula E in 2018 and 19. Yeah.
Exactly. So he stayed with motor racing, but let's say for today's episode, we will
sorry to interrupt, Patrick. Yeah, I just want to say, like, considering that all teams want to retain him and like ask him to stay, and even he got pretty bad injury and he was still staying with Ferrari, it just gives an impression that he probably is very a good person to work with, like a team player, like a real team player. Because teams really want to hold on to him, and in the world of big egos, you need guys like Felipe Massa, who actually understands what the word team means.
Exactly. 100% with you here with this analysis. And so, I mean, he was he was really always good relations with the teammates, and of course also with the fans. So really somebody you like to have around and staying in your team. Besides, of course, he was very fast, and plus the experience he had. So we see here his long stay in Formula One, 2000, then with the small gap, 2003, from 2004 to 2017. Best time maybe in the beginning at Ferrari, 2006 with 2008. Related competitivity, of course, with the bad luck not becoming champion in 2008 with the occurrences in Singapore and the bad luck in Sao Paulo at the end. A fun fact, and he's really a watch fan, and you see this, for example, also on this photo sitting 2012 besides Fernando Alonso. He loves expensive mechanical watches, especially from Swiss watchmaker Richard Mille. And thanks to this, company even dedicated at least 2 watches to Felipe Massa. The RM 005 FM Felipe Massa, retail price $52,000. And the RM 011 FM for a price over $200,000 if you want to buy it now, for example, at an auction. I think on the left, this is the RM 005, if I'm correct.
Yeah, so, also want to say that he's definitely loved by many people, and he has a lot of fans. And to be honest, in preparation for this episode, even I was sure that he had won at least one championship. I thought, well, surely there should be, there should be a win. So it's a little bit like Stirling Moss,
Yes.
and guys like that. So yeah, I mean, when you look at them, you think, oh, how come, how did that happen? Like, I thought, Felipe Massa surely was a champion, but yeah, I mean, it's just insane, like I said, insane stroke of fate that he didn't get his championship. And I still think that, it's never too late. It's never too late for FIA to correct a mistake and just give the second, give the second first place, and just say, there are 2 first places in 2008, and we retrospectively want to award that to Felipe Massa. Why not?
Yeah. Completely agreed with you. This would be a great sign that also relating transparency of the sports. And I mean, he deserved it due to his talent, passion, and work, of course. And I completely here with you. I mean, honestly, I would not expect that this happened, but it would be the right thing to do. And I think a great message, not only for him, but also for the fans.
Well, hopefully, one day.
Yeah. And with this, let's see what Felipe is saying. A lot of quotes we have today. Positive things come out of even the most difficult times, underlining his positive, friendly attitude. I am happy to start from zero, to create, to restart. I may imagine this was something he may have said when starting with Williams, because
after
like
2009, probably.
Yeah. I always had a good relationship with all my teammates in my career. I mean, we
yeah, and that's amazing considering Alonso's performance. You know,
Yes.
like I wouldn't be able to work with with a person who you know was involved. Like, of course, like we don't have any proof that he knew what was going on. But I mean, how could he have not known? I mean, that's pretty unlikely. So yeah, and still you have to, you know, you have to work together and to be, you know, to that extent professional and just being really nice person is amazing.
Exactly. I mean, besides this, I mean, we know that Fernando Alonso not is the easiest character. He practically burned all relations with his former teams.
Yeah. I mean, we all. I mean, I know kind of. I have some inside information from McLaren where like he was basically hated in 2007 when he left. So I don't know about other teams, but yeah, he's not.
I mean, he also surprisingly changed from now again from Renault Alpine to Aston Martin. So and with a lot of people unhappy, at least if you saw the last season of Netflix, Drive to Survive, that also became quite clear. But back to Felipe, next quote, everything in life has a meaning. If something bad happens, it's because you need to learn, to grow, similar as he said before.
Yeah, very fatalist opinion.
Yeah. Right. I'm not the kind of guy who will blame other people if things don't work out. Also, sometimes unusual for a Formula One driver, where you tend to blame always the other or the car or whatever.
Well, I believe that. I mean, he never said anything bad
No,
about
I believe
anybody.
it. I believe it. I also believe it, but also this shows that he is a pretty particular character for Formula One driver, and that's why he has so many people who liked working with him. For sure, working with Ferrari is a great pleasure. It's a great team, it's a great experience, and it's a great dream to be there. Next, I'm not really a problem personality, and I think we can underline this twice do our analysis here for this episode. And last but not least, I'm not here just to race. I'm here to win. That's really my point. So even if he was friendly, good cooperation with his teammate, of course, he also had the ego to win races himself.
Yes, of course, and I mean that's you cannot be a Formula One driver if you are not trying to win. That would be that would be strange. But at the same time, to remain this kind of human relationship with everyone and not just professional, it's really cool. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's all we have. And
yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Patrick. I mean, I learned something I didn't know about Felipe Massa today, and hopefully you did too. And yeah, again, just to remind you that we are in video format on YouTube and Spotify, and thanks to Patrick, we are in podcast format on many different platforms. And we thank you for your attention today, and please subscribe and press the bell to be notified about future episodes. And with that, we say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.